didn't know we were doing it.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna be like 1, 2. I thought you were gonna be like Freddy from Makartt. 3, 2, 1.
Wait, doesn't say 1. He says 5, 4, 3, 2. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and let's get right into this video. So today it's day 3 of my full week of Christmas nails. Today we have here Sister Spice.
Hey y'all.
And today we're going to be doing, once again, another fill-in on her nails. These nails have been on for 4 months now. Like the original set, it's been on since September, which is crazy. Look how much growth. Wow, that's cool. It has come to my attention that some of the nails are super curved just because, you know, the new nail is growing, but, you know, Sister Spice doesn't mind, so we're gonna continue.
That's my regular finger.
That's just how your finger growing. Okay, and hopefully once I fix it and fill them, I could hide the curve a little bit. But today we're going to be recreating this nail set, but we're going to make it black. So this is a black Christmas nail set. So for these nails, what you're going to need is a Nude Polygel, black and white gel polish. We're also going to need some gems, and I got this black glitter, which is perfect. And that is pretty much all we're going to need. So let's just get right into this nail set. Also, I forgot to mention, Sister Spice is going to be reading some creepy Reddit stories.
Oh yeah, some Christmas and some regular, but I got stories.
Okay, so here are how her nails are looking. They're not super grown out, but she did want a new design. So we're gonna start off by taking off all the gems. Let's see if this will work. I'm gonna break my nippers. Digging.
I'm scared.
Okay, I picked off the gems the best I could. Now we're going to do the most time consuming part. We're going to file all these down super thin. We're probably going to file off this ombre under there. So let's do that. Okay, so we're filing down these nails now. It kind of took me a long time to file these down. I'm not going to lie. It took us about probably an hour to file these down. I mean, we did file them down really thin, but also I think just because I was using the fine grit sanding band, it was a little bit slow. So you'll kind of see me switch my drill bit because I honestly don't really know which one to use. I'm not really good with drill bits. I don't know what each of them are for, so I just kind of use whatever works. And for me, the fine grit sanding band just always works for me and it never lets me down. It is kind of slow sometimes when it comes to debulking nails, but it still does work. And I've had these other drill bits that I'm using right now. I've had them for a while, but I just, for some reason, didn't really like them for filing down the nails. So I just never used them. But I don't know, something about them today, they just worked really well compared to the sanding band I was using. So I just stuck with this drill bit I was using. I don't know if it was faster. I honestly couldn't really tell. It just felt a little bit smoother and easier to file down. So I don't know. I'm not too good with drill bits, but I was able to get them filed down super thin. Sister Spice's nails, I think this is going to be her 4th set from these nails. The original nails she's had on, we did them at the end of September. So this is her 4th new set on those same original nails, and we've just been filling them in and they're holding up very well. They do just need a little bit of extra help to kind of fix the shape and stuff, so that's why I wanted to file them down super thin so I can kind of get a better base going. And now I'm going back to that fine grit sanding band and I'm just working that around the cuticle area of the polygel just to make sure that part is really thin and make sure there's no lifting, which there wasn't really any lifting on these nails because the last set that we did, it was only about 3 weeks old or 3.5 weeks. So they didn't really have any chance to lift. So all all the nails are filed down super thin. Look at how thin they are. It did take a little bit of a long time to file these down, but still, I feel like it was all right. So the next step is going to be the nail prep. I'm gonna start by pushing back the cuticles. Now I'm going to take this circular cuticle drill bit and I'm going to work this around the cuticle area. Okay, now I'm going to take my cuticle scissors and I'm going to trim off this excess dead skin. Okay, so I'm gonna take this fine grit sanding band and I'm going to file over the natural nail, gently file over it. Nail prep is pretty much done. Now we are going to add on some dehydrator and primer. Okay, next I'm going to add on a layer of base coat. So all the base coat is on. Now we're going to be refilling these nails with some Nude Polygel. I accidentally showed the wrong polygel in the beginning. We're actually going to be using this one. And I don't really have a lot, so I'm a little nervous if I run out. So I'm just going to put this on the nail and then I'm going to get smoothing this out.
Hey guys, it's me, Sister Spice, and I'm gonna start by reading my first story that I have here. I'm just gonna start off with a Christmas themed story called Creatures Disguised as Snowmen Are Taking Over My Neighborhood. The story starts like this. The first time I saw the creature was 2 days ago, on my way into work. It was early in the morning, around 6 a.m., and I was driving down the street when I saw the strangest looking snowman I've ever laid eyes on. It was taller than an ordinary snowman, made of 4 large round boulders of ice instead of the usual 3, and it had extra arms as well. 6 sticks came off from its thorax like a giant insect, 3 sticks on each side. Crooked and knobby. 2 more branches were protruding from its face, like warped, misshapen mandibles. It had a wicked grin, with sharp teeth made of jagged, broken stones. Oh wow, what kind of creepy kid built a snowman like that? I asked myself out loud, picturing Calvin, from Calvin and the Hobbes, and his detriment snowman escapades. I don't know who Calvin and the Hobbes is. Only this was not funny. It was highly disturbing. For some reason, I just couldn't put my finger on it. The effect was terrifying, like a giant insect snow alien. A totem of ice made from a malevolent frozen god. And worse yet, its gaze seemed to follow me as I drove past it in the low light of the morning. Surely it was just my imagination, I told myself, tired eyes and not enough sleep. But still, I glanced in the mirror and saw its head was turning in my direction, when I had been certain it had been facing the other way. I shuddered involuntarily and continued driving, feeling like a dark cloud was following me the rest of the day. On the way home later, I was pleasantly surprised to see that the snowman had been taken down. Or did it just move? I realized I had been holding my breath as I turned onto the street I lived on, oddly afraid as I approached the house where the snow creature had been constructed. Maybe the kid's parents found that thing creepy as I did, I thought to myself. Either way, I was glad to see it was gone. Continuing down the street to my house, I backed into my driveway, then looked up and froze when I saw the exact same snowman was now on my neighbor's front lawn across the street. Its head turned so it was looking straight at me. Wow, not suspicious at all. Its extra legs and arms appeared to be waving in the strong wind, making it look animated and alive. I got out of my car, eyeing the snowman across the road suspiciously. "Hey, Jordan," said a Weasley voice to my left as I set my feet down on the slick driveway. Caught off guard, I slipped on the black ice. After pinwheeling and sliding for a few scary moments, I recovered my balance by grabbing onto the hood of my car with both of my hands. I can only imagine that. Turning, I looked to see my neighbor Bill Nye, the science guy. Oh my god, not that guy. He was standing there up on the ladder putting up some Christmas lights and eyeing me very strangely. I realized I had made a high-pitched yelp of fear when he had spoken, right before my awkward little dance on the ice. "You alright?"
No, not alright.
"Yeah, I'm fine," I said. You just surprised me, that's all." He laughed. I'm just kidding. He laughed as if that was the funniest thing in the world. "Quite a show last night," he said, his words punctuated by the punch of his staple gun into the wood beneath the eaves. "Once in a lifetime, if you ask me." "Huh?" I said, confused. "What show?" He laughed again. "The Northern Lights! Didn't you see them? Better than a movie, man, I'll tell ya. They say that sort of thing doesn't come along very often. Not this far south. Had to go to bed early for work. You know. I must have missed it." He whistled softly. "Oh, that's a tragedy. You won't get a chance like that again." "Nope. Once in a lifetime. They said so on the local news this morning." I had always found Bill's voice to be slightly annoying, like a weasel or a field rodent or some kind.
No.
Although it did match his facial features and mannerisms, he moved quickly and constantly, jumping from project to project, as if he didn't have any real job, just housework. His Christmas decorations were already the nicest on the street, and yet he was still putting up more lights. Meanwhile, we'd been too busy to even put up a wreath or a Christmas tree. He had a giant snowblower parked just inside his open garage, which I loathe with passion. He was out every morning at 6 a.m. using it, even on weekends. His driveway and sidewalk were always immaculate and free of snow. Ours was usually the opposite of that. "Hey, Bill, do you see that snowman across the street?" I asked. He turned on the ladder just slightly to look over his shoulder, then went back to stapling. Thwack, thwack, thwack. "Yeah, it's just a snowman, so?" I could have sworn I stopped myself, realizing how crazy it would all sound. "What?" Nothing. It's nothing. Just had a long day. I must be imagining things. "I'll talk to you later, Bill." I began walking inside, and he called after me. "Oh, by the way, don't forget to shovel the sidewalk on your side. I saw a bylaw officer out earlier. Wouldn't want you to get another ticket like last week."
What?
Bill, mind your business, Bill.
Mind your business.
Use your snowblower. Help me out. It's not like you do it anyway. It's like, what's the difference? I'm your neighbor. "Sure. Thanks, Bill," I said, trying to maintain my composure. He'd probably called them himself. After a 12-hour shift, the last thing I wanted to do was go back outside in the cold and shovel the icy walkway under his scrutinizing gaze. Bill always acted friendly, but it was well known he resented most of the neighbors for various reasons and relentlessly gossiped about everyone. "Bill!" I went inside and found my wife was laying down in bed with a headache. She had left a note out saying she wasn't feeling well and I'd have to make my own dinner. Like, you couldn't text me, you had to leave a note. After popping a frozen pizza in the oven, I went out to shovel the sidewalk, spreading salt on the driveway so that it would hopefully melt by morning. As I looked up from my work, I couldn't help but notice the snowman again. Was it closer this time? Yes, it certainly was. Almost at the street now, as if it was approaching me slowly. I shook my head and finished the shoveling, then returned to the warmth of my indoors. My pizza had been forgotten, and the house was beginning to fill with grayish smoke. Girl, what?
How do you forget?
Set a timer on your phone.
Looking like they don't use phones.
And the charcoal smell of cheap burnt pizza dough. After airing out the house, I made a can of beans and toast and went to bed, still feeling slightly hungry. My mind running through a strange idea over and over again. The thoughts seemed ludicrous, far-fetched, and bizarre. And yet, I couldn't stop circling it. My dreams that night were terrible, but I forgot almost everything the second I woke up, being left only with the unease of knowing I had been chased in my sleep by something cold and evil, with too many legs and beady black eyes. For 8 hours, I had restlessly slumbered and fought a demon in my dreams. And so when I rolled out of bed, I was still exhausted, and my eyes refused to stay open without a concentrated effort. Coffee helped, as it always did, and I ventured out into the cold darkness and scraped off the car for my morning drive to work. Suddenly, I was shocked, wide awake, when I looked up to see the reflection of the snowman creature from across the street standing right behind me. My heartbeat was suddenly hammering hard in my chest, and I actually dropped the ice scraper from my hand. I turned around and saw that thing had been standing just inches away, certain that it had not been there a few moments ago. I began to feel shaky and sick with fear, getting into my car without turning around. Gunned the engine, not wanting to break eye contact with the snowman. Black charcoal eyes staring back at me as the engine began to rev, and I drove away, unsure of what else to do. Would anyone believe me if I told them? Driving away down the street, my rational mind began to make up excuses instantly. You were so tired, you just didn't want to see it in the dark. My brain told me, snowmen don't move by themselves. It's just the local college kids moving it around, playing pranks on the neighbor. That yellow M&M? What is that? Wait, is it hard?
We can get it off. I totally forgot.
Dripping on my finger. Living snowman. That's ridiculous. These things don't happen in real life. The days passed by quickly while I was at work. Ooh, I love that. We were so busy that I didn't even think about the snowman for most of the day until I was leaving and getting in my car to drive home. I had fully convinced myself at that point it was all just kids playing pranks, that I had just been tired and hadn't noticed they moved the snowman into the divide between my house and Bill's. We live in semi-houses that are connected together in the middle, so we share the small narrow lawn between our driveways. I pulled up to our house, the evening lights now completely gone and replaced by the darkness of light. My stomach was rumbling with hunger after a long day at work, and I began to park. Then I stopped in my tracks. The snowman had moved again. Now it was right in the driveway, blocking it so I couldn't park.
Run it over!
It's just the college kids, I told myself, and parked on the street instead. What? I would totally
have
just
like
shovel
knocked
it away.
over.
Yeah, I would have
right
knocked
now.
it over, shoveled it away. It's in my driveway. I'm parking my car here, no exceptions.
Right.
I walked back to the house, feeling uneasy as the snowman glared at me, appraising me as I came closer. The creature's head was lowered like a bull, about to charge, and I could barely make out its eyes looking right at me from beneath its brow. The effect was terrifying, making him look demonic and malicious somehow. Something else caught my eye. For the first time I had ever seen, Bill's driveway was not perfectly clear of snow. His sidewalk likewise had a few inches piled up on it. This was very strange, considering how meticulous he was with his household upkeep. There was something else too. His garage door was slightly ajar and the light was on inside. There was a sound coming from the interior that I didn't like one bit. It was like the sound my cat made when eating wet food. Sloppy, snarfing, and dribbling. I couldn't help it. Despite my fear, I was overwhelmed with curiosity and needed to see what was making that horrible noise. He needed to see what?
I would mind my business and knock over that snowman and go inside.
It sounded large and inhumane, and I needed to know for certain if my suspicions were correct. Walking past the hideous snowman, I pulled open the garage door and gasped, horrified at what had been revealed behind it.
A snowman eating Bill.
The usually well-kept garage was in disarray. Shovels, rakes, and axes and saws had been knocked from their organized place and were strewn everywhere. Bags of salt and soil had been spilled, and the light bulbs hanging from the ceiling was off its axis, crooked and flickering. And at the corner of all this was Bill, or at least what remained of him. He had been eviscerated and disemboweled, the top half of his body now completely separated from the legs, his torso and cavity of mangled flesh and ruined organs. Surrounding Bill were several of the snow creatures, now horizontal and standing on all 6 legs like giant insects.
Snowman spiders.
They were feasting on his visceral and vital organs. They acted like a pack of wolves, tearing him apart and rendering flesh from bones, snapping at one another greedily as they fought over the choicest morsels.
This whole time we thought it was Bill.
Bill, I'm sorry we misjudged you like that. That was wrong of me. I don't even know Bill from a can of worms, and I misjudged him, and now he's dead. I saw Bill's eyes were still open and he was blinking. somehow alive despite all of this, his mouth making soft bubbling, gurgling sounds as blood poured out from between his lips. Then there was a soft crunching noise behind me, and I spun around to see other snowman creatures from outside. It was crawling up behind me like a giant spider, creeping so quietly across the snow I had barely heard it. It saw me and hissed, a warning to others, who likewise turned and hissed like cats. They began to skitter across the cement floor towards me as the other ones did the same, even closer to striking. Terrified, I searched for the nearby space for a weapon. A snow shovel caught my eye, and I grabbed it and spun it with my hand. It made contact with the face of the creatures just as it was leaping at my midsection, with its branch-like arms outstretched. The feeling was like taking a swing at a brick wall, and the handle rattled and vibrated in my hand painfully after the impact. These snowmen are built.
They're like ice snowmen.
They're not fluffy snowmen.
So maybe if he like knocked that other one over, he would have realized that. And then he would have been a bit more alarmed. But no, I'm gonna park on the street.
You said to run it over. That thing would have crashed your car. Your car could have got totaled, and then that snowman would still be standing there without a dent.
And then now it's staring at me.
And then just turns into spider mode and breaks your window, and then slurps you up.
No.
But it seemed to do the trick. The creature's teeth were crooked and its head deformed from the blow, and it made a noise like an injured dog as it retreated and ran from the house. The other three creatures were momentarily stunned by my attack on their lookout, but they regained their composure real quick. Seeing I was outnumbered, they know it's just 1v3 or something. They raced towards me and I panicked, throwing the shovel at the one in front. Your only
weapon.
Right? Throwing the shovel at the one in front like a javelin. Girl, okay, and then it's just stuck in him like he can still move. The blade of the shovel cut through the creature's face like a knife through butter, exposing its alienoid brain matter. A fountain of green blood began to spur like a geyser from its exposed brain stem, and it crumpled dead to the floor. Oh, he killed it. He like threw it through the brain. Two of them were left, but I was without a weapon now. He literally named, there was like axes and blah 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 all over Bill's garage. He can't pick one of those things up. Two of them were left, but I was without a weapon now, and they had sensed their opportunity. They moved towards me, and I had only a few moments to think of a way to respond. They were far too quick to outrun. I'd never make it to my house or my car. Then the snowblower caught my eye. I remembered when Bill had bought that damn noisy thing. He bragged about it for months, showing off its features to anyone who would listen. This is the snowblower Gigabyte 3000. Every speck of snow
gone in seconds.
Spent my whole life savings on this thing. I can blow this thing up into the sky, and all the snow that would have fallen down on my house is now blown away
onto my neighbors.
He was particularly fond of the push start button mechanism. No more pulling a starter cord over and over in the freezing weather, Jordan. This baby is top of the line, he told me one day excitedly, demonstrating it for me. With no other options, I grabbed it quickly and pulled out the choke, then tipped it over and hit the green start button just as the creatures dove at me, their jaws wide open and dripping with blood. I wedged my feet beneath the base and lifted the snowblower up a few feet into the air with all my effort. The creatures had never encountered anything like a snowblower, I guess, since it caught them completely off guard. One of them jumped right into it, sending green blood jetting from the top of the machine and spraying it all over me and the ceiling above. I was left with just one of the creatures who no longer seemed to like its odds. After having seen me murder 3 of its friends, it escaped out to the garage, and I was left alone in the cold, breathing heavily and feeling utterly exhausted. Bill took one last shuddering breath and was completely still after that. I stumbled out of the garage feeling like I had fallen into another world. I looked around and saw I was alone, trembling from fear and shaking from the cold. I was about to pull out my phone to call the police, but then I heard the soft sound of crunching again. This time, not just from one place, but from all around. Following the sounds, I looked around to see not one, but dozens of the snowman creatures coming from all around, from every direction, drawn in by the calls of their injured comrades. They flooded the street. My house was blocked by one of them, and more moved in from the other side. The way to my car was still clear. I ran to it as fast as I could, opening the door and climbing inside quickly. I started it and peeled out of my parking spot just as they surrounded my car and began to hammer on the windows, their branched arms squealing and scraping across the glass of my car. Fleeing the neighborhood, I got to a safe spot and called my wife. There was no answer. The local police weren't picking up either. I'm trying to sort out my thoughts now, trying to figure out what to do next. But it seemed like no matter what I do, the outcome will be the same. These things multiply too fast. They're too strong and too quick. I hope my wife is okay. I'm building up my courage to go back and try to find her. I wish more than anything I'd stayed to fight, just so I would know she's alright. And so that I give her this message. Christine, if you're reading this, Bill said we can borrow his snowblower. And that's the end of that story. Alright, so this next story is called Don't Go Christmas Tree Hunting After Dark in Northern Canada. When I was growing up, every Christmas we would go out hunting for trees. The perfect one, just the right size to put up in our living room. It was always an excursion, going out in the countryside, crammed into the snow-covered car in our winter wear. My mom and dad, my brother Noel and I, the four of us were an unstoppable team, heading out into the white wilderness to fight what? I'm making up words. Heading out into the white wilderness to find the one ideal specimen to hack down and bring home with us so that we could decorate it in tinsel and cover it in ornaments, with ornaments, lights, and all the works. You're taking a tree from its natural habitat to decorate it
in your home, not even in the sunlight.
I heard real Christmas trees can last for years. If it's an evergreen tree, it stays green forever.
Dead on the inside, missing its family.
Dead on the inside, missing its family. Every year, it was our tradition. Until one year, it wasn't anymore. Dad passed away a couple years back, and with all the pandemic business, it doesn't look like we'll be doing much as a family this Christmas for the first time. It was with this feeling of melancholy and neglect, and neglected nostalgia in mind, that I hopped into my car on a whim and drove out into the snow-covered countryside to find a Christmas tree, alone, all by myself, because I think going out alone is a great idea.
Is that what she really says?
No. The whole thing was a bit out of the ordinary for me, but I was feeling stir crazy sitting in my apartment. I had just been quarantined for a week due to an exposure at work and had finally gotten back the negative test results and subsequent all clear to venture outdoors again. After days of Uber Eats, watching reruns of old Christmas movies, I could finally leave my house. I couldn't remember where the place was that we had gone to as kids, so I just drove around until I found a farm with a sign out front. It took a couple of hours, but I liked that lost feeling. The sense of misdirection that none of us experience anymore since we all have GPSs and cell phones. I had turned my phone off and put it in my glove box, vowing not to use it for the trip. Instead, just wandering until I finally found the sign that I was looking for. Christmas trees, it read, $40 each. Bring your own saw. BYOS. Perfect, I thought, just like the good old days. I pulled into the frozen gravel lot and parked. It was getting a bit late in the day, so the few people in the parking lot were already tying their trees to the roof of their cars and throwing them in the back of their pickup trucks. Better hurry, said a man in a flannel shirt and overalls as soon as I got out of my car. Gets dark early nowadays. Don't want to be stuck out there after the sun goes down. Gets cold quicker in these parts. I was immediately struck by his intimidating height. Being 6'5" myself, I don't often run into someone taller than me. He looked down at me and I thought he had to be above 7 feet tall. His skin was stretched taut over prominent cheekbones and he appeared emaciated and malnourished. Thanks, I said. I haven't done this since I was a kid. Hopefully I still remember how this hacksaw works. He looked at me crooked for a second, then smiled in a slightly creepy way. His teeth were yellow and nicotine stained. His eyes looked yellow as well. His skin rough and covered in sores. You never forget how to use a hacksaw. It's like riding a bike. But remember what I said about the darkness and the cold. You from around here? Yeah, more or less. Why? He watched me for another second, chewing a wad of something sticky and brown in his mouth as he did. Just make sure you're back at your car by sundown. Lots of animals out, and not much to eat this time of year. What kind of animals?
Girl,
Well,
shut up and cut your tree down. Come on.
all kind of animals. Wolves, coyotes, other things too. I assumed he was the unstable owner of the place and guessed by his comments that he was slightly insane. The parking lot was soon abandoned as all of the other cars seemed to leave at the same time I was prepared to go out. Trudging through the snow, bundled up with the hacksaw in hand, I proceeded into the forest of Christmas trees, and he stood and watched me go. Near the parking lot, the trees were all too tall to fit in my living room. It took a while to get into the decent ones, and I found a lot of the best specimens had been taken. This one had a hole the size of a basketball in the brocks. This one was already starting to turn brown and look sick. Too small, too large, too skinny, too tall, too fat. Wouldn't fit. Before I knew it, I realized I was having trouble seeing where I was going. The sun had been subtly setting behind my back. I tripped over something and fell in the snow. When I got up, my gloves were damp and I realized my feet were starting to feel numb. It was suddenly getting very cold. Okay, I thought to myself, just pick one and get out of here. Or come back tomorrow during the day or in the early morning. All of the trees looked sick and dying. I realized now they were missing large sections and none of them looked suitable for use. I settled on one random one and another couple minutes and quickly hacking it down with the saw. By the time I was done, it was pretty much completely dark outside. I thought again about the man warning me to return to my car before it got dark, and started to get nervous and wonder why he had been so insistent. Perhaps there are wolves, as a voice in my mind said, or bears. Maybe there are wendigos. Why did I have to think that? As I walked through the knee-deep snow, dragging the sick-looking little tree behind me, I remembered what I had read about them. Wendigos were a creature first mentioned in Canada First Nations folklore, and I had once done a project on them for school. I discovered through my research that a Wendigo is an evil, malevolent spirit. It is fueled by greed and loves the cold. It prefers its victims hungry, like those found in remote regions during winter months. It possesses people and causes Wendigo psychosis, a condition diagnosed by psychiatrists. Symptoms include craving for human flesh. Those who are possessed want to eat people. For every person this creature kills and consumes, a gaunt and skinny frame grows taller, thus never feeling satisfied. Just like the guy. The character said he was tall. Our main character guy. It is towering in its height, thin and human-like, but motivated only by greed and an insatiable hunger for human flesh. Wendigos tend to appear in the winter when food is scarce. That's the same thing the guy said. They love the cold. They are drawn in by starvation and ice-cold, freezing despair. My stomach rumbled with hunger. Snap out of it, I told myself. I thought I heard something. Footsteps in the snow behind me? I stopped walking and turned around quickly to look. No one. I began to walk again. The darkness was nearly total, but my eyes had adjusted enough not to trip as I trudged along the deep snow, dragging the tree by the trunk. It was then when I heard the sound again. Footsteps closer this time. Movement of another person walking in the snow. I turned around and then the sound stopped, but I had been sure that time. Someone was following me. I looked around, scanning the shadows in the directions where I heard the noise. Is someone there? No one. Hesitantly, I turned around and began to march again, my thighs now numb from the cold. My toes had gone from a wet and frozen pins and needles sensations I associated with my childhood excursions to now suddenly feeling painful and dead. The temperature had plunged rapidly. I hadn't checked the forecast, but this seemed unnatural. It felt like it was minus 30 degrees Celsius. My breath plummeted out in the air in front of me and my hands began to shake involuntarily. Suddenly, my teeth were chattering and I was having trouble walking, my legs not wanting to move. The sound was coming behind me again, much closer now. I turned around and this time it didn't stop. It didn't try to hide. The thing coming at me looked very much like the man from the parking lot, but he was no longer human. Maybe he never was in the first place? His plaid shirt was torn and it looked like he had grown taller than before and was now pushing 8 feet. Jaundiced eyes full of hate and hunger stared at me as he raced towards me, his long legs making him move quickly in the snow. For a moment, I was frozen there. Oh God. In more ways than one. It felt like the closer he got, the colder it was. And if anything propelled me to escape from him, it was that. I didn't want to feel that freezing dread for 1 second longer. It felt like death. My heart racing, I dropped the tree and ran. Girl, you dropped the tree after all this. The fear I felt as I raced through the snow was indescribable. Have you ever been so afraid that your body doesn't feel real anymore? Your muscle memory doing everything for you, telling your body to run, and you don't even have time to think, you just run? The problem is, when there's an 8-foot-tall Wendigo chasing you, they're obviously hungry and fast as hell. That's when it doesn't matter how quick you can run, because you're still gonna die. I heard him gaining on me, and I knew if I looked back, I wouldn't see another day. Just that brief momentary lack of focus would be enough to cause my demise. My heart skipped as fast as I felt it wiping at my clothes and nearly grabbing a hold of me. And I realized I would never get away by running like this. I could hear its breath behind me very close, breathing heavily as it ran. Headlights flashed suddenly, illuminating me, and I heard the Wendigo scream and duck away. The parking lot was to my left. I realized I had just reached it as the creature was about to grab hold of me. It would have, still, if not for that one random person pulling into the parking lot. I heard the Wendigo running off back into the trees, clearly terrified of light, my heart hammering. I walked towards the parking lot. I wanted to thank whoever was in the car since they had saved me. Even if it hadn't been intentional, it had happened. Interestingly, the car looked familiar. I realized as I walked over to it. My older brother Noel rolled down his window, and the expression on his face revealed a total lack of surprise or any other emotion. "Noel, you saved me, man. Thank you. There was something chasing me out there in the woods." "A Wendigo?" he asked. Yeah, how did you know? And how did you know I was out there?" "Mom told me you went looking for a tree, and there's only a couple places you can go these days. I got worried about you. Don't you remember what Dad always told us?" The memories started to flood back to me. I had forgotten what my father had warned us over and over again. No wonder the advice from the man in the parking lot had been so familiar. "Never go hunting for Christmas trees after dark," I said. "But what does that have to do with Wendigos?" "Man, think about it. Those guys love the cold, right? And they love when people are hungry. What are the two things you always remember feeling when we went looking for Christmas trees as a kid?" My stomach rumbled again, louder this time. Why had I skipped dinner before coming out here? Point taken. My whole body is completely frozen solid, totally numb, and I'm starving. "Follow me," he said. "I'll drive us to the nearest burger place, and we'll get a bite to eat, and you can get warmed up." I got into my car with one last parting glance at the woods. Yellow eyes gleamed from the darkness. Maybe I'll get the veggie burger for a while. The end.
Good story.
Yep, that's the end. It was really great, and it was kind of funny.
Okay, so the nails are all filled in now. They look like new nails. Now I'm just going to get reshaping them. I have my Makartt dust collector in a hand file. And yeah, let's just get reshaping. And Sister Spice is going to continue the stories once we start the nail art. Okay, so all the nails are shaped. Now we're gonna get started on the nail art. So I'm first gonna start with this black gel polish, and pretty much these nails are going to be, they're just gonna be black nails with white nail art. Okay, so I'm gonna paint all the nails except for the middle finger black.
Okay, I'm gonna continue my next story, and I think the title is called Christmas Time Ghost. Our lives has very few happy moments. Few bright moments. Christmas is meant to be one of those. Often we see advertisements showing family and friends together, sharing gifts and watching movies together around a fireplace. The tree is bright with ornaments, and not a face is sad or troubled. Painting these windows into what the holiday is supposed to be, in my humble opinion, causes more harm than good. I've seen darkness during these winter days. Last year, I faithfully chronicled the testimony of a troubled spirit that found their way to St. Peter after coming to terms with all their misdeeds that he and the others close to him have committed. He was a harrowing experience to weave together these stories. I've witnessed more tragedy related to the holidays. This time of year can cause very dreadful behavior between people to try and hide and cover up the wickedness. With mirth, good tidings, but some sins can't be washed away. I think I'm just gonna move on to another story. I wasn't really feeling that one. The words were a little bit like weird and I couldn't pronounce it, to be honest, so we're just gonna move on to one that can be more enjoyable. Okay, this next one is from the subreddit Petty Revenge. The title is Petty Perfect Christmas Tree. This might be the pettiest thing that I've ever done, but man, did I feel satisfied. Happened last Christmas time. My colleague had a bit of a habit borrowing things from my desk. I've never really minded if he put them back and refilled them if emptied. For some reason though, he never put the stapler back in place and always left it in the middle of my desk. I told him that if he took it, he should put it back the way that he found it, and he said, okay, and didn't put it back the next time either. I confronted him again and he said, you know, things don't always need to be so tidy, and I wanted to leave some work for you. I spitefully remembered this sentence and it etched into my brain. Come Christmas time, my colleague started shopping for trees again. For some reason, he's like super nitpicky when it comes to trees, and they literally need to be perfect. It's like a tic he has and he can't help it. It's almost comical. Usually he finds a tree that's as close to perfect as it gets and then trims it to perfection at home. After a week of searching, he finally found the tree, trimmed it to perfection, and talked about it for an hour at work. I found an excuse to go over to his place. We had dinner, and when he wasn't in the room, I clipped a branch off the tree in a way that it was noticeable, but not without inspection. The next day at work, he ranted about how his kids messed up the tree and he had to spend 2 hours correcting it. Mind you, it was already decorated. I simply went, oh, Alex, that wasn't your kids. But you know, things don't always need to be so tidy, and I wanted to leave some work for you. Holding up the Christmas tree branch that I previously cut. And till this day, I still have that branch, and it definitely will be a part of the decorations this year. Would you do that? Some revenge, petty revenge.
If I was really like annoyed by his comment about my stapler being out of place, then yeah.
This next one, it's a little bit more of a serious story. It's not Christmas related, and it's from the subreddit, Am I the a-hole? You know what I mean. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife that the lock on my daughter's door does not get removed till my brother-in-law and his daughters are out of our house? That's the title. It kind of sounds a little misleading. Here we go into the story. My brother-in-law, his name is Sammy, lost his home shortly after his divorce 10 months ago. He moved in with us and brought in his twin daughters, Olivia and Sloane. They're 18 years old. He brought them with him a couple months ago. His sister, which is my wife, and I have one daughter, and her name is Zoe, and she's 16. And she said her and her cousins aren't close, but they do get along okay. Olivia and Sloane have no respect for Zoe's privacy. None. They used to walk into her room and take everything they can get their hands on. Makeup, phone accessories, clothes, school laptops, etc. Zoe complained a lot, and I've already asked the girls to respect Zoe's privacy and stop taking those things. My wife and Sammy saw no issue with this. After all, they're just girls, and this is typical teenage girl behavior. I completely disagreed. Last straw was when Zoe bought a $60 MAC makeup kit that looked like a paint set that she had saved up for months. And one of the girls, Sloane, took it without permission and ruined it by mixing shades together while using it. I don't know much about makeup, but that's what Zoe said when she found the kit on her bed and was crying. I told my wife, and she said that she'd ask Sloan to apologize. But I got Zoe a lock after, and I found she was moving valuable belongings out of the house because of this incident. So, like, she used Zoe's makeup kit. Ruined it without permission. And then she spent months saving up for that thing. Sammy and his daughters saw the lock and they weren't happy. The girls were extremely upset. Sammy asked about it, and I straight up told him. He said, my daughters aren't thieves. It's normal that girls the same age borrow each other's stuff. He said Zoe could easily get another makeup kit for $15 from Walmart and shouldn't even be buying expensive adult makeup in the first place, and suggested that my wife take care of this defect in Zoe's personality, trying to appear older than she is. He's accusing me of being overprotective and babying Zoe with this level of enablement. Okay, first of all, that's not adult makeup. That's just like
anyone could have that.
You
just want to buy
nice.
nicer quality makeup. Like, what's the difference between a nicer quality makeup palette that's expensiver than a $15 one? They're both makeup. They both probably have similar shades. So how can you say one's adult and one's not adult?
They both do the same thing. It's just, you just want that nicer quality makeup. Like, ain't nothing wrong with that.
It's just freaking two twins being annoying.
Yeah, and using it without permission. And knowing it's expensive and just ruining it without caring. I told him this is between me and my wife, but she shamed me for putting a lock on Zoe's door for her cousins to see and preventing them from spending time with her, saying I was supposed to treat them like our daughter. Then demanded I removed it. But I said this lock does not get removed until her brother and his daughters are out of this house. She got mad and was implying we kick them out and saying her family will hate me for this. So I reminded her that I let Sammy and his family move in, which is something her own family refused to do from the start.
The whole family knows that he's annoying.
That her own family refused to do, so she should start with shaming/blaming them for not taking their own son or nieces and granddaughters in. If it wasn't for her family's unwillingness to help, we wouldn't be dealing with this much disturbance at our house. Everyone's been giving me and Zoe silent treatment, and my wife is very much upset over this. Am I the a-hole?
No.
Yeah, a lot of the comments were like, don't back down. You're the only one sticking up for Zoe. If her cousins wanted to use expensive makeup, give them your wife's. I guarantee she won't appreciate sharing anymore. They need to start behaving like appreciative guests. And another and another commenter, you have your daughter's back and totally get her needs for privacy and autonomy over her stuff. I'm disgusted that her own mother isn't more supportive.
That's what I said.
Please lend some mother's makeup to the twins, because obviously it's what girls do, isn't it? They love to borrow and use each other's stuff without asking. That's pretty much a lot of the comments.
I wish there was like an update, you know?
Another comment, it says, bonus if the person saying the story goes into Sammy's room to borrow some things without asking. Underwear, an expensive watch or something, and returning it with visible wear and tear. The Nutella would be my friend for his favorite pants.
You know what, the petty stapler and the Christmas tree branch stitch? That would be what would be going on. Okay, here's what we got. Next, I'm going to draw on a French tip for this nail.
The next story I got is from the subreddit No Sleep, and the title is, There's Something Intimidating My 6-year-old Son. I thought you had him. I thought you had him. I glanced around the room, my heart pounding. Danny, I called. Danny, where are you? Silence. Calm down. He's around here somewhere. Our house wasn't even that big, yet somehow our 6-year-old son was always disappearing. Sometimes I find him in one of the lower kitchen cabinets, camping, he calls it, pretending the cabinet was his tent and one of the fake fires lanterns was his campfire. Other times I find him hiding in the closet, opening all of his boxes of old toys or too small clothing, throwing it all over the place just because. Okay, you search upstairs and I'll search down. Danny! I shouted. Geez, relax. He's probably just playing with his Legos or hiding in the closet again, my husband said. Or drowning himself in the bathtub, my husband sighed. then started up the stairs. I went into full-on mommy panic mode. I ran over to the family room, empty. Kitchen, empty. Then, oh no, there he was. Through the sliding glass door, I could see him. He was out in the yard, or at least I saw his fire lantern. It bobbled up and down at the far end of the backyard, all the way down the tree line. How did he get down there so quickly? I threw the door open. "Danny!" I shouted. "Get back here right now!" The lantern stilled, hanging just a few feet over the soft grass. I couldn't quite make out his small form, but his little hands clutched over the lantern's handle. "Danny!" He didn't move. Gosh. I bursted out the house, barefoot. My feet slid all over the cold, wet grass. "Danny!" As I started gaining on him, he started moving. The lantern bobbled with each of his little steps, getting further and further away from me, going into the woods. "Danny!" "Miranda!" I skid to a stop, turned around. My husband poked his head out the back door. "Found him!" he shouted to me. "He's upstairs with his Legos." I froze, looking back into the forest. The lantern hung into the air, not 10 feet away, the soft fake fire flickering, and beside it, a figure that I could barely make out through the trees. What the? I turned around and hightailed it back inside. You know, at least she's got some sense. She's not like, "Hello? Hello, who's that?" I ended up calling the police. The person holding the lantern was clearly too short to be an adult. What if a child had gotten lost and wandered into our yard? They told me there was no missing children in the area, and a quick search brought up nothing in the woods either. Are you sure it was a kid? And honestly, I couldn't tell them. I wasn't sure. It was dark and a moonless night. I'd only assume it was Danny because of the lantern, so I forgot about it for a few days. But then on Thursday night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to go to the bathroom, and when I glanced out the window, there it was, hovering just about 10 feet from our back door. Kevin, wake up, I said, shaking him. There's someone outside. I threw on my clothes and poked my head into Danny's room. Then I crept down the stairs, my heart pounding in my chest. Kevin followed behind, but when we got to the kitchen, the lantern light was no longer so close. It was about halfway down our backyard, near the garden. "It's back. That's what I was telling the police about," I whispered. I watched as it floated into the darkness just a few feet from the ground, absolutely still. Like it was waiting for me to follow it. "Should we call the police?" I whispered. Kevin gave me a sigh. And even though he didn't say anything, I knew exactly what it meant. "You're overreacting. Again." "This feels like a prank," he said finally. "Some kid stealing our lanterns and taunting us. It doesn't feel that way to me. What if it's a lost kid? The cops said there weren't any missing kids in the area." He reached for the door. "I'll just go out there and tell them off." "You can't go out there." "Why not? It's just a kid." I bit my lip as he slid the door open and walked out into the night. I watched as his shadow walked into our yard, then stopped. "Hey, you!" he called out. "I'm going to call your parents and tell them you're out here."
Girl, you don't even know my parents.
Silence. "You hear me? Get out of here." The light bobbed, and then it started coming towards him. My blood turned to ice. I wrenched open the door. Kevin, get in here!" For a moment, he hesitated, and then he turned around and ran as fast as he could. As soon as he got inside, he slid the door closed with all his might, locked it, yanked the string to make the blinds cover it. It's not a kid. My breath caught in my throat. I immediately imagined some horrible monster, some gremlin-like creature crawling around our yard with our lantern. But what my husband said was far, far worse. "It's a man," he said, barely able to catch his breath. His eyes wide, locked on mine, and I could see the terror in them. "It's a man walking on all fours." That's the end. That's the end of the story. That's the end of the story.
I hate that.
That's why the lantern was so low. Someone commented, "Is he cute?" Another person put, "Pros. He has hobbies, he's flexible, and he likes children. Cons. He'll probably turn you into a skin suit. He's clearly into married women, and he likes children. Another commenter said, ew, what the heck? You guys need to call the cops again. Be sure to replace all the locks in the house. Make sure the window locks work as well. That man was somehow able to get a hold of your son's lantern and is hanging around your house. He's either a deranged person, a psycho killer, or worse, some sort of demon. I don't mean to scare you even worse, but you should probably go stay somewhere else for a few days. And then this other Reddit commenter said, on today's news, Florida man steals lantern, crawling around on all fours to intimidate a child so he could lure out the kid's mother. I have one story left, so I'm gonna start it when we start the next part of the nail art. Kind of leave you guys hanging for a little bit, like 3 seconds.
Okay, so we have the base color on there. Now let's start on this actual nail art. So all the nail art is going to be in the color white. And before I start, I'm going to wipe these off because the gel polish leaves that sticky layer on there. Okay, so I'm going to start on the ring finger. This is going to have 2 snowflakes on it. And you guys have seen, if you've watched my last few videos, I've been doing these snowflakes over and over again. So I think by now you get the idea of how to do them.
All right, this is gonna be my last story. I should have gotten more, but this is all I got. And this is from the subreddit again. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for pretending to get fired when the customers get a temper with me? It's a bit of a lighthearted one. I'm a high schooler with a weekend job at a coffee shop. My coworkers who work weekends are James, the owner's son. He goes to my school. He's a shift manager, but it's not real formal. He's just a friendly guy. Daniela, a college student who sometimes works weekends too. So sometimes customers will come in and just be angry about such little stuff, like literally blow up about nothing. I don't know if they're in a bad mood already or just looking for someone to take it out on, but it's a lot. Like, how sad. So you have to be a grown man taking your anger out on a high schooler and a college kid. So James and I were joking about having a little fun with them and hopefully getting them off our backs. So one day I was at work and some guy was having a temper about how we don't make the coffee hot enough, ... which I couldn't do a thing about because I gave it to him right out of the machine. So James comes in and he was like, "Sir, is there a problem here?" And the customer just starts ranting at him as well. So James was like, "Oh, this is totally unacceptable. You're fired." I started acting real sad. Like, "No, please don't fire me. My family needs the money. I need this job, please." And he played up being a hardhead, telling me to take off my apron and leave. The angry guy started to backtrack. Like, it isn't that big of a problem. You don't need to fire her over it. I didn't mean it. And James was like, "No, we pride ourselves on the best customer service." Of course, after all that drama, I still had my job. And we've done it a couple times whenever a customer will lose their temper at Daniela or I, James will storm in and fire us. Oh, and almost every time the person who had come in angry will apologize and say that they didn't mean it. It's kind of satisfying making people realize their actions might actually have consequences. Anyways, I was telling my friend from school about this, and a few of them thought it was a mean prank. To let someone go away thinking they'd gotten someone who desperately needs money fired? Am I the a-hole for this joke?
I don't think so. I think some people really need to, be shown how they're acting sometimes. Next nail is going to be this striped nail.
Thank you guys for listening to my stories. That was the last one that I had, and I hope it was kind of funny. And I guess that's going to be it for my Reddit stories for right now. And the next time I get my nails done, I'll definitely have more. Happy holidays from Sister Spice. Peace out.
Okay, now you're just seeing me do the snowflakes on the other hand. Sometimes Sister Spice likes to have 2 different designs on each hand, which I don't blame her. I think that's really cool. And you get to pick 2 different designs as well, so it makes it more fun. But for this set, we just decided to do one whole set, same thing on either hand, just to make it a little bit quicker because we only had one day to do these nails and we were actually able to finish these nails. I think it only took like 6 hours, which is pretty good. I mean, we did do a fill-in, which saved a lot of time, but I mean, for both hands and they both have nail art, for me, I feel like that was good. I really enjoy the black Christmas set. Let me know your thoughts on black Christmas nails. I honestly really like it. I feel like it's a really cool color to do for Christmas. And for me, I feel like the black and white together reminds me of like cold feeling, you know? So I feel like that's kind of like, you know, winter, Christmassy. So I like black for Christmas nails. I think it's really cool. Let me know what you think. Are you more of like a traditional like red, green type of Christmas nails, glittery gold, or do you like the more unexpected colors for Christmas that aren't so common, like black for example, or even like there's purple Christmas nail sets out there as well. Okay, so after we did the snowflakes and I did these stripes on here, and then on the thumbnail, I did 3 snowflakes. So moving on to the French tip, I'm going to be adding on the gems that go right here. I'm first gonna paint a really thin layer of base coat right here where I'm gonna put the clear polygel. Okay, now I'm gonna add on some clear polygel. This is to adhere on the gems. Once I have the clear polygel smoothed out, I'm gonna add a layer of top coat over the whole nail, and then we'll get adding in the gems. Okay, on to the pointer finger. This nail is going to be a full glitter nail. So we're going to paint some top coat on the nail, and then I'm going to sprinkle over this black glitter. Okay, so all the nail art is done. Now we're just going to add on some top coat to the rest of the nails, but I am going to be adding on a little gem in the middle of the snowflakes. Okay, now we're just going to add on some cuticle oil. Okay, and here are how the nails turned out. Let me know what you guys think of this nail set in the comments. I am so happy with these. I feel like they turned out so good. I really like them. I'm telling you, black Christmas nails are like so pretty. This was definitely a fun set to do. It was very stress-free. Usually when I do Sister Spice's nails, I feel like something goes wrong or something stressful happens that it like frustrates me during the set. But for this set, it was very just like easy going and like There was nothing that was too crazy that we couldn't fix. So I really enjoyed doing them. And I just love how the nails are cleaned up and nice and fresh. The original nails have been on here for almost like 3 or 4 months and they are still holding up so well. But yeah, this was day 3 of my nail miss. I'm posting a Christmas nail set every day until Christmas, and day 3 is now complete. I'm really glad we are like venturing out and doing different types of Christmas colors rather than just like traditional red and gold like we did in my last videos. If you didn't see them, definitely go check them out. But yeah, something a little more different like black nails for Christmas. Also, let me know if you would wear these nails. I honestly would. I don't do too many black nails in general or on myself. And it's so crazy to think that the nails looked like this before at the beginning of the video and they now look like this. I'm super happy with how they turned out. But yeah, that is pretty much it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you stay tuned for tomorrow where I'm posting another Christmas nail set. And yeah, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will talk to you all next time. Happy holidays!